Creature Club. Yo, how's it going, guys? I'm back, Mikey DC on the microphone. I'm here with my guest, Tim Porter.
Hi, how's it going?
And with Dan on the mic.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for showing up. Today we're talking about monster...
No, it's really a pleasure.
No, you're very welcome. No problem. That's no problem.
Thank
It's honestly just such an honor to be on. I have to say, before we get started,
Tim, it's an honor to share the studio with you as well. Actually, I'm a big fan of your work.
I am honestly such a big fan of both of you. It's
wow, thank you.
Kind of like it's a very strange feeling, like being in the studio with you guys.
I kind of understand that. I think it's the same for me. Yeah.
It's kind of weird because you're really fans of me. And but I'm fans of you guys. Yeah. I'm a fan. Or I'm fans as well.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. The way
Mutual Appreciation Society.
I'd say I'm like two fans myself,
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. I know, this is great. But anyway, we have a show to do here. We talk about the monsters of the D&D. That's Dungeons and Dragons for you folks at home who are just joining in. We're not talking about your just regular old bog standard meat and potatoes, just, like dog that you have in your house looking at you right now who's looking for food. Even though you fed them just like a few minutes ago, because you're like, all right, Fido, you're getting some food, and I'm listening to Creature Club. And but they want more food though. But that's just what dogs do.
Classic Fido.
Try feeding your dog Creature Club instead if they've already.
Give it a pair of headphones. I love this bit. This is maybe one of my favorite bits we've ever done.
Time.
All right, I'll get back into it. Yeah, we're talking about the monsters of D&D, and what we do in the show, we kind of talk about, go through the book, go through real world history, and then we talk about how we'd use them in the game and in like mechanically in a fight, and just how we would use them in our campaign in general. So if you need ideas for your game, for your D&D game, if your D&D game is a bit boring, if you're you might just use so because they're pretty good. I think so. Are they, guys?
Yeah, they're all right.
You really had it until the end there, man. You sort of what's the opposite of sticking the landing?
Yeah, you started insulting the audience. Like, if your games are shit, listen to us.
If your games are shit, I feel like I'm a YouTube ad who's like, don't skip now. Your D&D games are boring, and I can tell you right now how to fix it.
The way that ended. Do you guys know Joel Haver?
I don't think so.
What does he do?
He's a YouTuber and he does like a bunch of short films. He did one a while ago called "Do Girls?" and it's just him and his friend pretending to be neckbeards going like, "Do girls like Star Wars?" and shit like that. It's so funny. And it ends with him just going, "Do girls who watch my videos think I'm attractive?" And he looks directly at the camera and goes, "Do you?" It's so funny. It's like, wait, what?
Just a quick little bit towards the end. I don't actually think your guys' ideas are boring. I don't think ours are better. That's just a little bit I was doing. All of our ideas are
You're just selling the product, man. It's fine.
I'm just trying to sell the Creature Club.
And I'm sure Fido is a really good dog. I'm sure he wouldn't beg. I'm sure you trained him very well, and he wouldn't be begging at the table.
But if it's anything like my dog Cyrus, then he's just always looking for food.
Of course. It's an eternal struggle.
And so am I, so I wouldn't hold it against a dog, to be honest.
Yeah, it's me too, yeah. I look to the nearest person, like, give me some food. Anyway, guys.
What are we doing?
We are talking about the kin of dwarves. I guess the kind of the underdark-dwelling cousins of dwarves, the Duergar.
Yes, the Duergar.
So what's up with them, Tim?
So, I am not a linguist. Starting that off, just tempering your expectations for exactly what I'm about to describe.
This is like Tim Porter 2021, and then he just goes up to the podium. I'm like, I am not a linguist.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking.
I have heard multiple versions of how to pronounce the name of this creature. The Duergar, the Duergar, the Duergar. It all depends on your perception, and they're all correct. So don't give anybody shit for calling them any one or the other. I'm sure I'll flip between them during this entire episode, and I'll maybe do it on purpose.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, Dave. What the hell, Dave?
Come on.
Guys, come on.
Get off my back.
We said we wouldn't call out Dave again.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Dave.
Oh, sorry, Dave. Sorry, buddy. But so Duergar is actually from Norse, but the U is a V, but they do pronounce it the same way. So it's Duergar, whatever. They pronounce it differently in different areas and stuff. So that is the actual word for dwarf. So it's just a different word for dwarf, a different language for the word dwarf, or the concept anyway.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of different ways of saying it that are very similar to Duergar. There's Old High German is my favorite, and I believe Mikey's favorite as well. The Twerg.
Oh, hi, German.
Oh, Old High German. Twerg is their word, and we had a consideration that maybe dwarf and twerk have a very similar origin for where they came from. So that's an interesting observation that was made pre-episode.
Yes.
We also have the Old English Duerg. I don't know how to pronounce that one. It's Dweorg, which is a weird one. And then there's Proto-Germanic Duergas. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that dwarf has been said over the years, obviously, but Duergar is just like an anglicized version of another version of how to say dwarf.
And Duergas is a great dwarf name as well. I think I'll definitely give dwarf that name.
That's a good point.
It's very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I think someone is credited as saying like English is just words from a bunch of other languages pronounced wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But the Duergar are supposedly the like underdark-dwelling evil race, although D&D has come out, or Wizards of the Coast have come out and said that there are no evil races anymore, so that's fine. So you can be a Duergar and you can be a good, nice feller. But for the history part of this, I tried to look into a little bit of like the history of evil dwarves within mythology, and there wasn't anything very, very specific that I could find that was like exclusively evil Duergar, other than I believe in Greek mythology they used to be maggots that were attached to the like primordial being Ymir, which is I think also where Attack on Titan gets its kind of lore ideas, which is like so cool. I'm a big fan of Attack on Titan.
I've only seen the first season, sorry.
Their lore stuff is super cool. Yeah, the fourth season is coming out right now, and Ivy and I are enjoying it very much.
I've heard it's meant to be very good, but I haven't got around to it.
Yeah, fair enough. It's
Titans are the opposite of dwarfs, though. They're huge.
Yeah, Tim, come on, you're taking us off course here. What's going on?
Yeah,
this is famously a podcast that's always on track, and
always
I feel like you're kind of taking us on a fucking wild ride here, man.
Yes, indeed. But so the story that I kind of came to that would be from mythology is from the Grimm's fairy tales, the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm, called The Three Little Men in the Wood.
Is it about us?
It's like, yeah, I was just going to say that.
We're in the woods. We're not out of the woods yet, lads.
Oh,
but
yeah, good point.
Once again, two of us are famously tall, so that's just, we're not little men.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're pretty tall as well, Mikey. Honestly.
Taller. I'm 6. I 6 or 6'1", I think. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
So I'm 6 today. The Grimm's fairy tale is what Snow White is based on, and there's lots more to this, but the section about the dwarves is what I kind of clung on to for this bit, where it's a story of this girl who is sent out into the woods during winter to look for strawberries because her stepmother is not very nice, and she goes out into the forest wearing like a paper dress, which doesn't protect her from the cold of winter, and she's having a miserable old time, but she comes across these three little men in the woods, and she shares her meager rations that she has with her with the three dwarves, and she cleans up and she has a lovely old time with them, and the dwarves are like, you know what, here's 3 miracles. And the 3 miracles are a bit, hit or miss. One of them is that she will grow more beautiful every single day, which is like, cool, great, nice. Another one is that she will marry a king, which is, whoa, this lowly peasant lady is going to marry this king and she's going to be beautiful. But the third one was that gold will fall out of her mouth with every word, which I feel like, honestly, not great. It's like trying to talk. It's just like, imagine coins just falling out of your mouth with everything that you try to say. Yeah, you wouldn't really be able to talk. So maybe
Gold is really dense too. It'll probably damage your teeth.
Yeah, it's super, super heavy. Like an ounce is the size of like a 50-cent piece.
Yeah.
But so she goes back, and her stepmother is very impressed with how beautiful she's becoming, and her stepsister becomes envious of her beauty and her gold and her fortune. And so she goes out into the forest and tries to find these dwarves, and she insists that they give her the same treatment, but she doesn't share her food, and she doesn't clean up, and she doesn't treat them very well. So they curse her to get uglier every day, and that toads will fall out of her mouth instead of gold at every word, and that she would die a miserable death. So that's
yeah, it's because fucking toads is coming out of her mouth. Of course, and getting uglier. Where does it stop? Like, do you just
right?
Like, at what point do you like
how steady is the progression?
Did the woman who became more beautiful like become like a being of pure light eventually? If you look at her, you just go blind. It's like it's like an angel or something.
Like in the actual story, a king is passing by while she's fetching water from a well, and he's struck by her beauty then, and decides then and there that he's going to marry her. And he's like, wow, so you're that beautiful already, and you're going to continue to get more beautiful as the days go by. And like, at what point does that stop, and at what point does the ugliness stop? Is like, I feel like it does stop eventually, or they just kind of forget it in the story.
I guess it might also be like diminishing returns, like, right, like you're so pretty that it doesn't matter. Like you got twice as pretty again, but like you're still like the most attractive person in like a kilometer radius, and so how would anyone know?
It reminds me of a joke that they made in The Bravest Warriors. It was a cartoon that I watched on YouTube, but I think it's on Cartoon Network now, where one of the characters has a crush, or everybody says that she has a crush, and it's like a will they won't they kind of situation. But in this hollow room where they can basically make whatever they want, they're like, make this character, but make her 30% more attractive. And then she's like wearing this, like, her hair is flowing and she's wearing like a bikini. And then another character goes, increase her beauty by 5,000%, and then she just becomes this like blob. It's just very funny. And so like after a certain amount, I think it will become very similar to our dryad description, where she had legs in all the wrong places. So, like,
I just wonder, like, you know, if you were like asking something non-human to make you more beautiful, would it follow like some cosmic law of beauty? Like, you're like, I want to be prettier, but you're asking like a star or something, and the star just makes you like a big orb. It's like, orbs are great shapes. They look great. Everyone likes a good orb. And you're like, oh, okay.
That is pretty. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll be an orb.
Pretty.
I can rock as an orb for a while. I can do that.
I think you could rock the orb look. I really think you could. You could pull it off.
I was just gonna say the toads thing. When you're talking about toads there, Tim, I opened up to the contents page of the monster manual and just saw the picture of the toad eating man instead of man eating toad. Look at the contents page on the monster manual. It's like literally just open it up, second page, little toad or big frog eating the guy. Right there.
Wow.
And then that's the image in my head. It's completely off topic there, but listen, this is Creature Club, all right?
Well, there you go. That's kind of what we do.
You got to bring up a frog that's eating the guy if it's in your head. That's what this podcast is all about.
That's true. And basically, that's how the mythology goes for what I had looked up. And during my searches, I found a tiny little... just a little nugget that I was very, very happy with. I shared it with Mikey before we recorded, but I haven't told you yet, Daniel. Okay. Where in Polish, and also German actually, the word for leprechaun is krasnoludek.
Okay.
Or no. So in Polish, the word for leprechaun and kobold are actually the same. It's krasnoludek. Oh. And the word kobold is German for leprechaun. So there's a whole weird thing going on there with dwarves, and actually gnomes as well, I think, are thrown in there for Polish.
It's kind of like we troublemakers sort of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
garden gnomes kind of looking things, you know.
On the Wikipedia page for Krasnoludek, the Polish gnome and dwarf, there's a line that says that it is used as an insult for Swedish taxi drivers. It is an extremely specific insult reserved exclusively for Swedish taxi drivers.
And if there's any Swedish taxi drivers listening to this, we're sorry if that's very offensive. Please let us know.
And also, explain why.
We had our Spotify Wrapped thing there, and apparently Sweden is one of our fastest growing listener bases.
We've shot our fastest
so
growing.
our
my
chances,
God, guys, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to cut this whole bit.
You guys, thank you, Sweden. We love you.
I might have to. Cheers.
We love you, Sweden.
And yeah, that's kind of it for my real world history / mythology stuff that I went into.
That's great, Tim.
For the old Duergar.
Yeah, lovely stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, good crack.
And that's all and good. But what about what's in D&D?
What about the game, eh?
What about the game?
We're all gamers. We're all here to game.
Yeah, we're all here sitting on our gamer chairs with our headsets on, drinking G Fuel.
How is your gamer chair, Mikey?
It's always going back in kind of a tilt as well. It's stuck back, so I'm just lying down here.
You're just lounging,
but I'm being tilted just a little bit to the right.
Like I love that so much. The fact that it's like you can't relax in it because it's just like ever so slightly topping you out.
It's like
I guess
teetering.
it's kind of like it could be just a statement on gamers in general, just like
tilted.
A bit tilted, a bit broken.
Yeah.
Did you get yourself an Allen key and tighten up everything on it?
I did.
Come on, he makes beds. He's Allen key master.
I'm made of Allen key. I'm literally holding one right now. I have one next to me, just lying. I was like, there's definitely an Allen key here, and I just pick one up at arm's reach.
Oh,
and I have
it
here.
Incredible.
And it's all the same size. Listen to Creature subscribe for more Creature Club, guys. If you want to hear more about this chair.
You want to hear more about the
arc?
No, if you want to get more into the chair arc, you should check out Mikey's stream. That's where the continuing saga of the chair takes place. It's great stuff.
2020 years was the year of the dragon. 2021 is going to be the year of the chair.
Yes. Year of the chair. Maybe a year Luigi again. We'll see.
Ooh.
We could do another one, just see if that fixes it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
More Luigi games. Anyway, sorry. In the game of D&D, Daniel, where have Duergar been in the game?
So, the Duergar first appears in the second monster manual, not the first. In the first, we get dwarves. We get regular dwarves. And in the second, we get Duergar. The Duergar are interesting because they actually don't get a lot of abilities, like unique combat abilities. There's an extraordinarily long paragraph about how they basically get to be like player characters. Like you roll like stats as a fighting man or a thief or a magic user. Mm-hmm. So I'll skip all that, obviously. But there's a little bit at the start, which is sort of pretty similar to what we know now in 5th edition. The Duergar are the seldom encountered race of evil dwarves. They're also known as Grey Dwarves or Grey Ones. Malicious in the extreme, Duergar dwell in subterranean depths where their evil need not withstand the light. Normally but a handful of these wicked creatures will be discovered, but occasionally a lair will be discovered with hundreds of Duergar there. And it represents that in the number appearing. It says between 2 or 8 or between 200 and 300. And then if you get 200, you have to do basically a census and like generate a number of fighters and a number of non-combatants and a number of magic users.
Wow.
And a lot of the stat block is just explaining that, which is kind of cool, I guess, if you did want to kill every Duergar in a house, which feels a bit excessive. It talks about how they also hang out with Darrow. I think Darrow don't appear until Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes or one of those books, so we can't talk about them.
What are Darrow?
Darrow are like another evil dwarf, but they're different.
Okay, cool.
But there's actually some cool stuff. One of the things it talks about is it mentions Undercommon, but it doesn't call it Undercommon. It says instead, they speak the silent tongue of subterranean creatures.
Ooh.
Their own tongue, so, Duergarish or Dwagrish or whatever, and dwarf, so they speak the dwarvish tongue as well. So which is interesting because it suggests that their tongue and dwarvish are distinct, but the Duergar still like know dwarvish, which maybe implies that like they're similar enough that you kind of could translate from one to another.
Duergan.
So that's them in 1st edition. In 2nd edition, we get a very similar description. Oh, and of course, even from first edition, they have their most signature ability, which is that they can grow. They can. It's called enlargement. We now call it enlarge/reduce. So they can grow to twice their size. They become big, and they can also make themselves invisible.
Has anything like that, Daniel, shown up in a game that you played?
The invisible dwarves or the big dwarves.
Either or.
Well, in one of my campaigns, a player played as a Duergar, and they famously, while we were exploring a dungeon and got into a fight, they used their ability to get big, and then they were stuck in a very small room and they couldn't leave because they were big, and they didn't want to shrink again because they just used their grow power and they didn't want to waste it. And so they just sort of stood in a room and swung their axe around a door frame to try and get somebody, which is like my most iconic memory of a Duergar using its ability to literally grow to twice its size. Is just like someone reaching through a door, like
I think I remember you saying that. That's why I asked that. So I just wanted you to tell the story.
Yeah. There's an interesting thing here where there's a sort of a distinction where the Duergar in first edition, it's established it's actually not magic that lets them do this stuff. They're actually psionic. Obviously now psionics and magics are kind of the same thing, which is its own discussion, its own barrel of fish. But obviously previously in AD&D there was magic, and there was psionics, and psionics was based on your intelligence, and if I recall correctly, you rolled randomly to just see if you were a scion, which is really cool in my opinion, but obviously stupid, which is fair. And basically this rulebook was saying all Duergar have these abilities. In other words, all Duergar are scions with these abilities, and they basically have enlarge, reduce, and shrink, and they also have something called molecular attraction. I have no idea what that is. I've never seen that ability before.
They're magnetic.
I would imagine, I'm pretty sure molecular attraction is what we call gravity, and I think everyone has that ability, but...
the ability of gravity.
Yeah, to experience gravity as normal.
How quaint.
How powerful. So, there's some interesting stuff. We go into second edition, and they're pretty similar. They're still bad, nasty, no good, rotten dwarves. They still have non-combatants if you find a big layer of them. It says that they hate daylight, and it actually basically punishes all their abilities. They get the equivalent of, they basically have the equivalent of sunlight sensitivity is what we call it now. They're much less effective if they're exposed to sunlight while trying to fight or trying to get away or spot opponents. Straight away, there's an interesting thing where the enlarge and reduce and invisibility have become innate magical abilities. They're no longer psionic. And it says, all Duergar possess the innate magic abilities of enlargement and invisibility. And it says Duergar can also use enlargement to shrink themselves, as well as anything they are wearing and carrying. So obviously that's kind of returning to what they could do in first edition, but now they're not scions, it's magical. Why? I don't know. These are just the kind of decisions that get made between editions. I assume because they wanted to change how psionics worked. In third edition, there's an interesting thing where they more kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They formalized the idea of a subrace more. So now in the monster manual, there isn't a section on Duergar, there's a section on dwarfs.
Okay.
Or dwarves, depending on who you ask. And there are multiple dwarf choices. There's dwarf. You know and love him. You play as him sometimes. But then there is the deep dwarf and the Duergar. And these are now sub-races of the dwarf. And they have basically they're like picking a player race. They have abilities that amend a fixed set of abilities.
Is that kind of like what it's like now? Can you pick a Duergar as kind of like a sub, like one of the subclasses of, or the sub races as a dwarf?
I believe you can pick it as a sub race. It's not in the player's handbook, I don't think.
Okay.
But I believe there's an option for it in. Is it Volos has a bunch of monster races, player races, or maybe it's in Xanthars.
You continue there, Dan. I'll look it up.
Be a hill dwarf or a mountain dwarf, I think, in the player handbook.
Yeah, in the player handbook it's just those two. But remember, I think it's Volos.
Yeah, has
a bunch of rules on playing as a full orc or playing as a UNT or playing as a or maybe that is Xanathars, because it's also got the catfolk and the stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't quite recall. I feel like you're probably right, Mikey. It probably is the Xanathars.
I'm looking into it as we speak. So
grand. Okay. Anyways, that's third edition. Third edition Duergar are now a kind of dwarf. They kind of formalize that fully by making them all under one heading. Then we get into fourth edition, where where the points don't matter and nobody knows. Yeah, where 4th edition is just its own barrel of fish, and just like they have similar lore, which is, I guess, a little different. You know, sometimes the only difference is that there's more of a thing where it says, Duergar, distant kin to dwarves, Duergar carry the taint of a long association with infernal forces. So rather than being kind of like, you know, they dug too deep and too greedily and now they're real nasty boys.
Oh boy, they're nasty.
There's sort of the implication that they might be like tied to forces from another world, which is cool.
Yeah.
There's a Duergar called the Duergar Flesh Terror. That's a great name.
Ooh, cool.
There's one called the Hellcaller. They have great names. They kind of have more of a like
Mind Master.
They're sort of like naughty Satanists, while still kind of being underground bad dudes.
Basically, just a metal band, just with stage names.
I'm not kidding you,
Yeah.
man. These artworks of the 3 monsters, it literally looks like a lineup for a metal band.
Yeah.
Fully.
I was gonna say some of the art that I've seen for them, like they look like dwarves, but their hair is really spiky, so they're like dwarves, but a bit more radical.
I am deploying a screenshot to the group chat as we speak.
Let's have a look. Oh my goodness, I'm excited.
Oh
to see
wow!
it.
Oh
Yeah.
wow!
Yeah, there you go. So this is sort
Wow.
of the
Edgy.
This is their new aesthetic. You know, this is their 4th edition aesthetic. They get more color.
We'll post that up on Twitter for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Previously, they were like gray with white hair, and now they kind of get like red highlights and stuff like that, which is sort of cool.
Sick. That's fun.
Definitely gives them more of a unique aesthetic. Yeah, and that's them through the ages.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Here we are in 5th edition.
Here we are in 5th edition. So how about I just walk us through what's written in the book right here? So I'll do the first paragraph anyway. Hold on. Duergar. The tyrannical Duergar, also known as Grey Dwarves, dwell in fantastic cities deep in the Underdark, using ancient dwarven knowledge and myriad slaves. Myriad? Yeah.
Yep.
Myriad slaves, they work tirelessly to expand their subterranean kingdoms. Most Duergar, including females, are bald and have ashen grey skin. They wear drab clothing designed to blend in with stone, along with simple jewelry that reflects their severe and utilitarian demeanor.
My goodness.
A bit of description of how they look. They kind of they look simple, but they also look metal.
Yeah, they call them fantastic cities, but then they're like, it's all stone and a couple highlights.
I guess it's fantastic in the sense that it's maybe just very, very big or very nice.
And just impressive on
just
being
impressive,
almost
Just fantastic.
It's interesting that they say that they're all bold, which means that artwork of the cool ladies with the metal hair are fired, basically. Hair metal's out.
Yeah. Also, just real quick, they don't have to be all bold, guys. That's it's D&D. Do what you want.
It says in the book, actually.
The book.
Actually,
Slave to slavers. The Duergar were once dwarves before their greed and endless delving beneath the earth brought them into contact with the mind flayers. Held in captivity for generations by the Illithids, the dwarves eventually won their independence with the aid of the evil god Duergar. Slavery had forever chained to them, however, darkening their spirits to make the Duergar as evil as the tyrants they had escaped. Despite winning their freedom, Duergar are dour, pessimistic, untrusting creatures, always toiling and complaining, with no memory of what it means to be happy or proud. Gotobin. Their craftsmanship and accomplishments endure, yet there are. Sorry, I thought something would happen there, but not. It didn't need a Gotobin.
I still enjoyed it.
Their craftsmanship and accomplishments endure, yet they are bereft of warmth or artistry. Duergar make war against their dwarven kin and all other subterranean races. They forge alliances when it is convenient, then break those alliances when they have nothing more to gain. What the heck? That's mean.
But that's what everyone else does in the real world. How could they do that?
How could you live with yourself? They take and hold slaves to toil in the Underdark, regarding them as free labor and crude currency.
my goodness. Evil boys.
Crude Currency is the name of my new mini-series that I'm releasing on Netflix.
Is it about like turning oil into bitcoins or something?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty good.
Yeah, cool. Sounds
Converting
great.
oil directly into Bitcoin.
Actually, it's shite, guys, but I need people to watch it if they want another job. So give it a watch there if that's
It's
all
not
right.
like people are going to do anything else. They have to watch shit on Netflix.
That's true, yeah. Right.
It's
Excellent.
that
So,
of the Mandalorian. So
yeah, that's true. But that's not on Netflix. You got to pay a completely different.
you got to
thing
pay.
for that
You got to pay a different
Oh
company
my God.
$1 billion to watch that.
Yeah, or hope your roommate has it, which mine does. So
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
anyway, sorry, Dan, did you mention that mind flayers were involved in the past of Duergar's Doll, or is this a first?
It wasn't mentioned anywhere in the little bits of tidbit lore that I got.
Okay.
At least as far as I can tell. In fairness, it might well be the case that they get expanded upon later on, because obviously you remember that the first and second edition, they don't get a lot. We get a lot more about them as a species, but not a lot about their like history. And then in third edition, where that might have been expanded, the initial introduction of them in the monster manual, because they're just a subrace of dwarf, none of them get a lot of lore. Like all of them just get like a very small amount of lore and then just a lot of information.
Yeah.
Although what is interesting is that in Duergar in third edition it says, I'm actually going to put these. Can I put these side by side? How do you get the box into the thing? And let me just look at this side by side. This is interesting. Okay. Sometimes called grey dwarves, these evil beings dwell in the underground. So just in terms of the paragraph you read, there's something very similar here. It says most Duergar are bold. Instead of saying including females, it says brackets, even the females, which to me sounds a little more silly.
Yeah.
But anyway, and they dress in drab clothing that is designed to blend into stone. In their layers, they may wear jewelry, but it is always kept dull. They war with other dwarves, even allying with other underground creatures from time to time. So it's interesting that it has the same thing about how they appear. And then obviously, fourth edition was like, what if they were hair metal though? Which is fun. I like that. It's like, I've got a new idea.
Fourth edition was definitely like kind of the experimental college years of D&D, I think, where it's like, let's be a bit weird. Let's just try new things out, you know?
Absolutely. So there's no mention of the mind flayers, although there is a mention of Duergar, a joyless god who demands constant toil and whose favorite weapon is the warhammer.
Let it go.
Which is fair. It's a fine weapon by all accounts.
You go up against the evil god Duergar.
The joyless god of toil. Sounds like a fucking shite god.
He does a bit.
You know, there's a god of crack in D&D. It's like, why would you pick this one?
God of crack agus Kjol.
This is a very Irish heavy episode.
Very Irish heavy episode here, you know?
Tough as stone. Like dwarves, Duergar have strong constitutions. Adding to their physical stamina is an incredible mental fortitude resulting from their time as slaves of the Illithids. A Duergar's mind is a fortress, able to shrug off charms, illusions, and other spells. Did I read that right?
Yeah, as far as I can tell.
Physical stamina. Okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, that gives us a sneak peek at probably what we're going to get later
Yeah, true enough.
in the stat block.
It's interesting that it says charms, illusions, and other spells.
Yeah.
That to me is a classic bit of like, write 3 more words in that sentence.
Yeah, it's the rule of 3. Shrug off charms, illusions, and
It could have said, a Duergar's mind is a fortress, able to shrug off charms and illusions with ease. Which to me would have been more thematic.
Charms,
it's like
illusions,
charms,
other
illusions,
spells.
and other spells. Like what? Just other
Which
spells.
other spells?
Like what? What spells and why?
Enough questions.
I thought you said it was mental fortitude from
Others?
being enslaved by like.
Throw him in the dungeon.
Charms, illusions,
So
evocations.
as far as I know, the Illithids don't use a lot of fucking fireballs. Can they resist fireballs? They can resist fireballs. Why? Born of darkness, just like me. The Underdark is saturated with strange magical power, which Duergar absorbed over generations of imprisonment. Wait, okay, hang on. I'm going to finish this thing first.
Yeah.
A Duergar can increase its size and strength for a short time, becoming a powerful ogre-sized warrior. Can't we settle this over a pint?
No? Then come on.
Come on. If it faces a foe it can't fight, or when spying on creatures approaching its territory, what are you doing in my territory? It can just as easily become invisible.
Get out of my swamp.
To slip away into the darkness. Eons spent in the Underdark also sharpened their dark vision, allowing them to see twice as far as other dwarves.
Oh my.
This keen eyesight comes at a cost, however, as a Duergar's vision is compromised by sunlight.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there.
I mean, if it was really dark, wouldn't you get really good at hearing things instead of being like, I have to get more magical vision?
Which was a point that I kind of thought of. Like earlier on, you mentioned that the Duergar have a language of like unspoken, like an unspoken language.
That's
like,
not. Yeah.
that's not how darkness works. Or
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
unless you're trying to be quiet so that the illithid don't catch you again. But even still,
Even still.
I guess your eyesight would adjust when you're in the dark. Maybe they've super adjusted,
Ooh.
so it's even better. And yeah, you can probably give them I like to give them a bit of blind sight as well. Kind of like to have it. They're able to just hear good and feel good. But not not feel good, but tremors and stuff.
like most races have the dark vision stuff, but a race that has been stuck underground for thousands of generations, presumably,
Eons.
is just a little bit better. Just a
I
little
mean,
better.
it's a bit of a high fucking price to pay. It really is a reminder that evolution is mostly chance. But sorry, I just thought it was weird. They said over generations of imprisonment. So did they not go to the Underdark
themselves
on their own? And then I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter.
They were once dwarves before their greed and endless delving beneath the earth brought them into contact with mind flayers. Okay, so I guess they would regularly go to the surface as normal dwarves until the mind flayers got a hold of them, and then they stuck them underground.
I guess
I guess they became Duergar after they were set free by the mind flayers. After some,
I'd imagine it would take
quite a
few generations of separation from the rest of the world of dwarves to create an entire separate race of grey-skinned, dark vision, magic-resistant boys.
Isn't it weird how it tries to explain that the magic of the Underdark is the thing that made them grow big, when that doesn't make any sense?
Yeah, they absorbed the strange
magical power over generations of imprisonment. It's okay, so does everything native to the Underdark have the ability to turn fucking huge and invisible or invisible? It's no. What?
Yes and no.
Anyway, this isn't a big... It's just weird. I always think it's weird when they do stuff like this. It's now let me explain where these magical powers come from. It's you're fine.
Don't. You're good. I don't care.
I don't know who told you, but I don't care. I'm not sure who lied to you, but...
I don't know why I found that so funny.
Infernal Master. Asmodeus, or Asmodeus, Lord of the Nine Hells, has been known to impersonate Duergar gods in order to cultivate evil brimming in the hearts of the Grey Dwarves. He offers them divine guidance and vengeance against their enemies while urging them on towards greater acts of tyranny, all the while concealing his true identity.
Rock me, Asmodeus. Asmodeus. Do. We haven't done that before, so might as well.
Yeah.
No, it's good. I like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Well, that was it. That's an interesting one. So they have their main source of godly influence, I guess, is their evil god, Lergi. But then Asmodeus is occasionally just lol, it me.
It's actually me, not Litigue.
And they could have got the power from either of those gods,
Incredible.
They could have said, oh, you can all grow big now because I'm a god and I can just give you some magic.
You're big.
You're big now.
You think you're dwarves? Now you're ogres. Oh no.
You're ogre. You're a powerful ogre-sized warrior. Why is it? All right.
I don't fit in my city anymore.
My fantastic city is ruined.
Oh yeah,
I'm ogre.
There's a different section of the cities for Duergar that couldn't undo the spell. Just larger doorways.
How about we move on to the next section of the show, guys?
How about it?
How about
We're
it?
very far into this episode.
Any thoughts on that writing so far?
It was less flowery, but that might be on purpose. A lot of our dragon stuff I thought was really, really beautiful, and the dryads and everything so far has been very flowery and beautiful, but this was very fantastic is the closest word to the flowery language, but that could of course been on purpose.
There's a lot of lore in this section. It's here's where they come from in this very specific context. Here's their evil god. Here's where their weird resistances come from. Here's where they're able to turn big. Also, Asmodeus is involved,
just as a little treat.
Which generally I don't really look for that kind of stuff in the monster manual.
Yeah,
but
same.
that being said, as we criticize it, it does kind of give you enough information there for knowing the personalities of the Duergar. They're just they've been fucked over in life, and they're just a bit they're just a bit dour about it, and they're a bit mean and a bit more brutal with it. So yeah,
there's one thing I don't like.
Oh,
which is that we learn that the dwarves. So it says Dwarves eventually won their independence with the aid of the evil god Ludigu. And then later on, we learn about the Infernal Master. And so I don't know if the implication is that Ludigu is actually just Asmodeus, or if the idea is that Ludigu is just impersonated by Asmodeus sometimes.
Yeah. Indistinguishably so.
But the reason I don't like it is because Asmodeus already has a bunch of shit on him in the devil section. Mm-hmm. I think he might even have a stat block in another book. I don't know anything about Ludigu. I'd love to know about Ludigu.
Tell us about Ludigu.
Why is he an evil god? How did he help the Duergar? Why is he like referenced here? And then you're like, but actually they're being manipulated by another fictional character who's godlike and you don't care about. And it's like, cool, okay, there's 2 of them I have to remember now. Like,
Why?
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, as in, this would be an opportunity to explain what makes Ludigu, the evil god, different from Asmodeus or Grumsh or Orcus or whatever, right? Any other number of evil godlike beings. Like, why this creature? Why this entity? Why this deity? And why did they help the Duergar? Why do they help the Duergar defeat the Illithids? Why do they care?
Yeah.
And we don't get any of that because we just learn more that Asmodeus might sometimes be pulling the strings, making this evil race evil, which is fine, but it's like, okay, like, yeah, but I don't care. Like, I already didn't care about Ludigu and I don't care about Asmodeus.
It could be, I don't know, like a dragon as well. It could be just a guy who just lives in a hut who just like...
The man Bill and his web of lies.
And he's like, oh, I actually... I'm
Asmodeus. It's
I'm
just
Asmodeus.
a big trick.
Or I'm pointing to Duergar.
Asmodeus.
Anyone can be pointing to Duergar in a bad direction. Like, it's like, what, I don't like, just I guess people reading this can be like, oh, cool, I can add Asmodeus into this because I like all this stuff about the lore of D&D, and that's cool if you're into that.
Yeah, and tying it into the hells or whatever.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. No, you can kind of give yourself like an enemy for just another enemy faction, I guess. But I don't really care too much myself for that, so like
it feels kind of like they only had this one page devoted to Duergar and they wanted to give you as much lore as possible by just throwing a bunch of names at you so that you could do the work. No fun, all work. Do your research.
D&D.
We're not going to tell you anything. What are Illithids? I don't know. There's none of those in the book.
Matter.
Then you go to Mind Flayers and like, oh, they're the same thing. Okay.
They got their magic from the Underdark. Do other things get magic from the Underdark? Not really. Like, I think it's totally fair that it's like, yeah, Asmodeus is there as a way for you to tie the Duergar into other campaigns. But I think it just frustrates me because I feel like that entire section could have been about Ludigu.
Yeah.
And we could have learned more about their deific characteristics and who they are.
Yeah.
And why they intervened in this battle and how that might influence the party. Like, Asmodeus, Lord of the Nine Hells, is not going to be like, the heroes who have gone to that tavern will encounter one of my underlings, and like, he doesn't care. He manipulates, cosmic forces. Whereas like Ludigu, the god of Duergar, might fuck with you just for the fun of it, and like, because no one cares. It's like if Skeletor started kicking your ass, like no one would care. Like, you know what I mean? Like if Thanos shows up, it's a big deal. But if Skeletor shows up, you can have fun with Skeletor,
Yeah.
Like, unless Thanos gets in his car, you have to take him seriously. Like
Thanos car.
If it's Asmodeus, you have to be like, all right, we have to take this seriously. It's one of the big names. But like, if it's Ludigu, no one knows who that is. You can do whatever you like.
Yeah.
Ludigu could be a guy in a shed and it would be fine.
It's kind of like because I like orcs because Grumsh is pretty cool because Grumsh is just for orcs basically, from what my understanding is. And like orcs are orcs because of Grumsh. And you can kind of you could have done a similar thing for Duergar. It's just like, Duergar are Duergar because of Ludigu.
Exactly.
So like that's kind of a cool way of going with it. So yeah, I get you, Dan. I understand. I know how you feel. I've been there, man.
Thanks.
So shall we move on to the old dinner town?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Grab some meat, grab some potatoes, chuck them in the oven, see what happens.
Yep. I'll be going to the buffet 2 times tonight.
Ooh, cheeky.
Duergar, medium humanoid dwarf, lawful evil. Armor class 16, that's with scale mail and a shield. Hit points 26 or 4d8 plus 8. Speed 25 feet. So that's a dwarf right there. Strength 14, Dex 11, Constitution 14, Intelligence 11, Wisdom 10, Charisma 9. Pretty standard stat block there.
Yeah.
Especially maybe even for like kind of a dwarf character if they're kind of more of a warrior type. Damage resistances, poison. That's a dwarf. Senses, dark vision 120 feet, passive perception 10. Languages dwarvish and undercommon, which we kind of commented on before, which it could have like its own language, like a Duergar language, or kind of like an under dwarvish, which would be a pretty cool way of calling it. Challenge 1 or 200 XP. So 4 of your adventurers who are level 1 would be fine against this Duergar, this one Duergar.
Defeat this grey person. Kick his ass.
I kick his ass. I attack him, which he'd probably go down 1 turn, even for level 1 party. But if the dice go bad, then maybe one of your guys would die, because level 1, you're peasants with swords. Duergar resilience. The Duergar has advantage in saving throws against poison, spells, and illusions, as well as to resist being charmed or paralyzed, or as the book says, and other spells.
Poison, spells, and illusions.
Poison,
spells, and illusions are separated.
Yeah.
Like, all right, never mind.
Okay, so basically it's hard to charm him and to poison them and do
Anything.
other stuff, I guess.
Spells.
Anything, I guess, really. Sunlight sensitivity. While in sunlight, a Duergar has disadvantage on attack rolls as well as on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight. So a lot of underdark-dwelling things have that. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense there. The kobolds have it. Driders have it. Do Driders have it? Driders do have it, yeah.
Cool.
I'll go through the actions I might as well. While I'm here.
Go on, you wild thing.
While you're here.
While I'm here, I might as well. Enlarge recharges after a short or long rest. There we go, guys. So probably just once per fight. So it's just going to happen during the fight, and that's it. For 1 minute, Duergar magically increases in size, along with anything it's wearing or carrying. So he wouldn't grow big, and his clothes are too small, and he's not going to do
Like the Incredible Hulk.
You're just fighting a giant nude Duergar now, you know. So that won't happen. Don't worry. The clothes will stretch with them. Or actually, it'd be pretty cool if they kind of have like, you know, stretchy clothes, like the Hulk.
Or like really baggy clothes all the time. So
Yeah.
when they grow into them.
That'll be a bit of fun. And they just pick up, like, instead of using their weapon they just pick up like a piece of like a tower or something, or like a piece of like a building, you know, something smaller, like a big log maybe. That'll be fun. Yeah, for 1 minute, while enlarged, the Duergar is large.
Wow.
Doubles its damage dice on strength-based weapon attacks and makes strength checks and strength saving throws with advantage. So strength stuff is good. It's all better.
Strong.
If the Duergar lacks the room to become large, it attains the maximum size possible in the space available. So you wouldn't be able to, like, you know, if you're in like a flimsy built house, like kind of like a very badly built wooden shack,
Or like an outhouse or something, yeah.
an outhouse. Yeah, actually, that makes a lot more sense because it's only large. Because I'm thinking he grows giant, but just large, ogre-sized warrior. Yeah. If you're in an outhouse that's
Or
like
horse-sized,
or
really.
even like a box, like a flimsy made box, you think he can just like break out of it by growing large? You know, would he be able to do that?
I think
I'd reckon so.
I feel like previous editions of the game had like rules about. I think it might have said in Pathfinder under Enlarge Reduce, like if the thing they're growing against is weak enough, at the DM's discretion, they burst out. Otherwise, it contains them.
Yeah,
Pretty reasonable.
Like, because the idea is like, you know, it's kind of hard to judge, and you just kind of do it on a case by case basis.
yeah.
I think the same is true here. If it's the kind of thing that a person could reasonably push over with like a good heft, I think it's the kind of thing you could grow through. You know.
Yeah.
Because it's a magical expansion. You know, it's like if you had a big balloon and you were inflating the balloon. And the act of inflating the balloon very rapidly would cause the shed to explode.
Yeah.
Then the Duergar will cause the shed to explode.
Well, I think what you said, Dan, is just good attitude if people want to use this at home. Where like if it's weak enough and with the DM's discretion, they can do it. You know, which is you know, it's a yes and situation there. So that's good. Great, excellent stuff. Do you guys want to go in with the weapons there? Give you something to read.
Yeah, sure.
War Pick. A melee weapon attack, +4 to hit, reach 5 feet, 1 target. A hit deals 6, a 1d8 + 2, piercing damage, or 11, a 2d8 + 2, piercing damage, while enlarged. It also has a javelin, so it has a long ranged. It is a melee or ranged weapon attack, +4 to hit, reach 5 feet, or a range of 30 feet, and a 120-foot extended range. One target. A hit is going to deal 5, a 1d6 plus 2, piercing damage, or 9, a 2d6 plus 2, piercing damage, while enlarged. So it does say that it deals double damage on strength-based weapon attacks, so I'm glad that they gave you that option in the Javelin, because I was worried that they were going to just be like, oh, it's the strength-based ones, which is just the war pick. And I was like, oh, but you can throw something with your strength as well.
You can, yeah.
I'm glad they did that.
Yeah. Invisibility, like Enlarge, this recharges after a short or long rest. The Duergar magically turns invisible until it attacks, casts a spell, or uses its Enlarge, or until its concentration is broken, up to 1 hour as if concentrating on a spell. Any equipment the Duergar wears or carries is invisible with it. So that's very similar to the spell invisibility in that it breaks if you attack or cast a spell. It's concentration based like invisibility, and then it says that you can't use Enlarge at the same time. And I want to say that that's new. I recall, I have no first person accounts, but I recall that being a thing people talked about with Duergar in previous editions of the game, that they could hypothetically, that they were one of the best ambush monsters because they could grow in size while invisible and then get a sneak attack that was also super powerful because they were huge.
Yeah.
But that could be absolute falsehood, so I don't know.
Well, it does say in the invisibility that it's only broken if the Enlarge is used, but the Enlarge isn't broken by the invisibility. So you could Enlarge and then turn invisible.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point, Tim. Yeah, because, yeah, Enlarge still doesn't take concentration. So, yeah, if you did them in that order, yeah, that's fair. It might be a similar thing where you had to always do it in that order, like get big and then vanish.
Get big, vanish. Although you could only be there for maximum 1 minute, invisible and also big.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruins the ambush potential to a certain extent.
They can only really do it if they know they're there and like they have like, okay, we have a minute to do this, so
yeah,
turn invisible now, lads. And then
he's being chased, and then he turns around a corner, enlarges himself, then turns invisible. Then the party runs past him, and then he sneaks up behind and bonks them all on the head.
Yeah, scary stuff.
Perfect.
I wouldn't want that.
Scary stuff.
You had thoughts on the Javelin, Dan?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I recall in Pathfinder, it might also be in previous editions of the game, one of the weird things that came up with Enlarge is like, you know, growing in size has always had the rules like, oh, when you grow in size, your equipment also grows with you, and obviously that means your weapons are more devastating because they're bigger. But if I recall correctly, one of the funny things that came up in, I'm not sure if it was in Pathfinder, I don't even know if it was a rule or if it was just what we assumed, but something that came up was, it was in Pathfinder, it said any equipment that you drop returns to its normal size, right? So in other words, which makes sense, right? You can't have your character just say, I take off my giant backpack and drop it on the guy and he dies because it, has an equivalent mass of a car. So like the intention is that, and also in fairness, it means you can take an item and give it to a party member because they're not big and you are. But the ruling also created a weird side effect where, because whenever an item leaves your possession, it shrinks. If you either fired an arrow from a bow or threw something, as soon as it left your hand, it shrank to normal size. So you just fired a normal arrow because it was a normal arrow because it shrank when you fired it. Or when you threw like a javelin, because it was out of your hands, it turned back into a normal javelin. And so it was the same as throwing a javelin.
Right.
Which is just, it was a funny, like, it was a weird interaction where, like, you just imagine being like, oh, I'm so big, I'm going to throw my sword at this guy, and you throw it and it just shrinks, and it's like, bonk, and it's, fuck. Which is hilarious.
But here,
like,
it's
yeah,
not
exactly.
that, I guess.
But here it says that it deals the extra damage while enlarged. But what's interesting is I wonder if the reason it does that is because of the way the rule is worded, that you get more damage dice when you make strength-based attacks. And it isn't saying the weapon is bigger. It's almost saying like you're so strong that the weapon is more damaging, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So maybe it does still shrink, but it kind of does it slowly.
But it's like
going towards it.
It's like it's shrunk, but it's been thrown by a huge person, so it's still flying like very fast. But yeah, I know. I mean, like obviously this is what the rule says here. I just thought it was interesting because I remembered that ruling from Pathfinder that like stuff shrank as soon as it left your hand, basically your grip. And so you couldn't throw stuff at people.
Yeah, it makes sense because I guess like if you're throwing javelins at if one of your players gets hit by one of those javelins, it wouldn't be like a huge javelin just stuck in their arm or something.
Yeah.
You know, it would be a regular size one stuck in their arm, which would still be pretty big, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But it also, another point there for the melee attack. Melee? I don't know why I've forgotten how to say that word suddenly. But its reach
Super
is 5.
Smash Brothers!
Its reach is 5 feet in all of its different sizes, even though the things get bigger. Like, it grows 3 sizes from... Oh, no, he is actually medium. Never mind. So it grows 1 size, which I would probably rule to say that it suddenly has a 10-foot range on its warpick and its javelin since they grew along with them. I feel like that's not an unreasonable thing.
That makes sense. In fact, I believe the enlarged spell actually increases your reach by 5 feet.
Well, there you go.
Right.
I don't know. See, this is the thing. See, back in my day, with Pathfinder, if you were a large creature, you just had 10 feet of reach. The rules were just, as you got bigger, your natural reach expanded because you just have bigger arms, right? But I don't think Pathfinder I don't think 5th edition assumes that. So I believe an enlarged Duergar still has a normal 5-foot reach. But yeah, I agree with you, Tim, that like when you get big, you should probably have that extra reach because you are just taking up more space, and obviously your weapon is much bigger. So that's something to consider.
Indeed. So we have gone quite long on this episode so far.
Have we?
But we got dessert time to do, so how about we just hop into it? And
I've got more to say, but let's do it in dessert.
Yeah, we'll do it in dessert. Let's do it. All right. Right, dessert time. I guess Matrix room. A few Duergar. What's going to happen?
Matrix room. So one Duergar against a level 1 party will perish.
Yeah.
I think they put up the best fight of most of what we've come up against so far.
Yes, I would agree. I would say that actually, even though they will lose, they will die. Even though they will perish, I actually think that the fight will actually be kind of fun for the players.
Yeah.
Because the Duergar has a bunch of weird tricks. First of all, Duergar resilience is stupid good and just means the party can't do any bullshit. You can't charm person, you can't suggestion, you can't use illusions, you can't do anything. You're not allowed. You're just not allowed. No, you must...
Advantage against saving throws.
You must defeat this creature in mortal combat. None other will suffice. So that's kind of fun. It's maybe a little overwhelming, certainly as a level 1 party, to be told none of your abilities work and you've wasted my time. But it is very significant, and I think in some ways there'd actually be something interesting about having a party who go up against Duergar for a time, because they would learn to get used to Duergar resilience, and they might try to figure out, like, is there ways we can beat it? Is there something we can do that is effective? And then they'd learn of its sunlight sensitivity, and they might start, like, bringing flashbangs and stuff like that into dungeons, which would be cool.
Ooh. I think a quick buff that you could give to the Duergar, if you wanted to play them at a slightly higher level, like if your players have leveled up a little quicker than maybe you were expecting before they got to your Duergar section, is when they are enlarged, make their speed slightly higher, give them resistance to damage from piercing,
like weapons and
bludgeoning,
stuff.
Normal weapon attacks.
Yeah.
Maybe their hit points is relatively high, I think, for challenge rating 1.
Well, yeah, I think you're right,
because that's like 1d8 per character, which is kind of slightly higher than middle of the road for the hit dice that you would normally roll for characters, although not for fighters, which is a little bit. And their constitution is only 14, which gives them a +2, which is honestly not quite tough as stone. So I'd probably bunch that up to a +3 or a +4. So
yeah,
I'd probably pretty well double pretty much everything about them, especially when they are in their enlarged state. And maybe if you wanted to balance it out, maybe give them vulnerability to those things when they're invisible, because it's like the opposite, which I think would make them the tiniest bit more interesting. Much harder to hit, although in 5th edition, hitting someone invisible just means you have disadvantage
So you can try and hear them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Duergar is kind of added to the club of monster that does one thing, and that's what they're going to do during the fight. Where this one just kind of it gets large. That's what I think when I think of a Duergar.
But in fairness, it can do two things. It can invisible as well.
That's true. Thing. Yeah,
but only once.
But only once, and as well as enlarging. So I picture the fight. You'll fight it. And maybe he's in a team of other Duergar, because I think that'll be a bit more thematic with them, I think, of like dwarves.
Yeah.
Or they're part of just like a evil squad of baddies or mercenary guys trying to get you or something. Whatever they are. I kind of like to put them in a squad of like, because obviously just one Duergar, that's not going to be, even against the level 1 guys, I don't think that's going to be much of a fight. But I think the nice surprise of like, even for new players, most likely, nice surprise of it just growing large, it will be a lot of fun, I think, So
yeah, I'd agree. Other than that, I think in terms of the Matrix room, I'd say the fact that they have both a melee and a ranged option is good.
Yep.
It makes them a good, well placed as an all-rounder. And their main downside is that they will have 1 action and the party will have 4, so they will die. Also, their to hit bonus is garbage and it's just wasting your time. Plus 4 to hit, so if they have a shield, you're not going to hit them most of the time.
Yeah.
If the party member you are attacking uses a shield, which presupposes they have either any kind of armor or a dex mod, will not hit. Yeah. Because it'll be plus 2 AC onto a base of at least 12 or maybe 13. So, 55% of the time you will not hit this party member.
There you go.
Because they have a ridiculously low strength mod for no goddamn reason.
Yeah. If he's like a named Duergar or like a boss that you want of some sort, just like a named character or like an important one, do what Tim says, just bump up those stats and just kind of go from there, really. Or just roll the stats yourself, or just kind of make a character for it, really, and just make sure it has all the feats and the abilities.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like this Duergar suffers from an issue with a lot of monsters, especially kind of NPC style monsters in the monster manual. And it's interesting because this is something they solved later. In Volo's Guide to Monster, there's extra NPCs at the back, and they're all like player class themed. So there's like the Bard and the Blackguard and the Transmuter and the Alchemist and all this sort of stuff. And like it's interesting because when you compare those NPC stat blocks to the ones in the Monster Manual, the way they give those creatures stats is totally different. Because obviously there was some kind of like, we'll give them stats as if they're NPCs idea in this monster manual, right? That's why this Duergar has like 14 strength, like literally like the kind of strength score that no self-respecting fighter would ever have. And 14 con, which is like totally unremarkable, right? Like for a monster, not for a player, for a monster. Like for a monster, you'd want at least 16 strength, probably 18. Con 14 is fine because it's just health, so like it doesn't really matter. And they have so much resilience and so advantage against so many types of abilities that like giving them the con save doesn't really change much because they already resist poisons and blah, blah, blah. But like they have a plus 4 to hit because they have such low strength, and the only thing that modifies their attack roll is their proficiency. Whereas if you look at the monsters in Volos, every fighter equivalent character in Volos, every NPC has 18 strength, at least.
Wow.
Like it's, and like, you look in the monster manual and the knight has 16 strength. The knight. What's his job? He hits people with the sword. What's his strength? 16. What are you talking about, wizards? In what universe does a creature that like exclusively uses a great sword on things is going to use 16 strength? Like, we put it in his charisma because he's a knight. It's like, I don't fucking care. He's not going to talk to the players. He's going to cut their heads off. Give him the 18. Like, so like it's interesting, like, because this is, in my opinion, a thing that like wouldn't happen now. Like if the Duergar was reprinted, they would have 18 strength. They might have 16, but they would have at least 16. They would probably have 18 strength.
I'm a little surprised that none of our editions of it have made that small addendum at all, because we all have different editions of the monster manual. But
they corrected spelling mistakes. They didn't change any like stat blocks.
Well, they changed the experience that you got.
Experience,
but
I think that was like a weird mistake or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more Duergar in one of the books. I can't remember. This is the thing, when they were numbered, I knew where they were, but now I don't know where anything is. There's more Duergar in one of the Splat books, and there's like the Duergar like war chief and like knights and like characters who actually have useful abilities. But the problem is that it creates this case where there's a Duergar here who is primarily a melee attacker, but who has such a low to hit bonus that they won't hit. Like a level 1 fighter with like scale mail and a shield is basically impervious to the Duergar's attacks. Like the one time they do hit, if they're enlarged, it's going to be a big deal because it's a good amount of damage. Even the javelin is a good amount of damage, but like a lot of the time they just won't hit. And I also feel like those kind of fights are sort of unfortunate for the players, where they're kind of gambling on the dice roll of like, if this creature hits you, you're going to instantly die. But if they don't hit you, which is most of the time, nothing happens. Instead of it being like a back and forth where like the creature starts wearing you down and you have to like strategize around that.
Excellent.
Sorry, I just need
Great.
to drink of water.
That's good stuff. But Duergar, that's all good on fighting it. How would you guys add them into an adventure? Any adventure ideas for the Duergar? Any fun ideas come to your heads right now?
Well, I feel like they've kind of given you like all the little bits that they could in as short a time as they could. They definitely filled it out with some unnecessary stuff on this page, but they've given you some of the tools to build your own story with the Duergar, like the Ladugur. I feel like, as Dan said, the Ladugur should definitely take up more room than Asmodeus does, but like I feel like just they could be used in a Mind Flayer campaign as a race of people who are under the influence of the Mind Flayer or something along those lines. I don't have any specific ideas as to how I would use them. They would definitely be the primary denizens of the Underdark, but the Underdark in my setting is very sparsely populated at the best of times, so I would just kind of use them as a race of people. They're probably like skeptical of the party whenever they get near, but I think I would just treat them as like another race of people who just live in the Underdark, like not necessarily bad, just skeptical of the Overlanders or whatever.
Yeah, like I have this idea of not going into like they're evil. It's more like kind of like a wholesome fun to it, where the dwarves have a mountain city, and then like almost like opposite underneath the Duergar have their own kind of city, but going down.
Yeah,
and then they're kind of like
No,
it's like
fuck you.
It's like Shelbyville and Springfield, you know, almost
Yeah. Shake harder, boy.
Yeah. It's just you can have like we gotta sneak into the Underdark and steal their stuff or something, you know, like
Steal their lime tree.
Yeah, just do that Simpsons episode. I just like that as really, because you know we don't want to go with like evil races, but if you don't want to go with that, you can do something like a rivalry almost, but not like a war.
I always think that like if you want to talk about the idea of like a group of people who are all evil, the way to do it is not to say that like they are innately evil and relish in the suffering of others, because that's like
I never liked that.
Don't.
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid. No. It's like for the Duergar, I would say like they have a system that's evil, and they're also tired and like drained and constantly embittered from their horrible lives, that they don't have the energy to try to fight or change the system.
Yeah.
Like we know here it says they're lawful evil. So like I would say like they're like the Roman Empire. They're horrible bastards. They take slaves, but like they have a citizenry, and they have a people, and they have a pride in their place and their history. And like,
yeah,
they're like, you could go into a Duergar city and you could like negotiate with the guard for entrance, and you could find a room. Like you wouldn't be butchered in the streets or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But like people would be like, oh, you're not from here, so we don't care about you. But as long as you are passing through and you have money to trade, you're allowed in. Like they're not insane. They're just like, this is our city and this is how we run it. Like it says they're tyrannical, right? They have presumably some kind of like authoritarian like power structure that's like horrible to the people at the lowest rungs, and like outsiders like the party would be amongst those lower rungs. So the party have a front row seat to all the problems of this society. But you can still make it clear that like there's quote unquote normal people suffering.
Yeah, like kids running in the street and being like ushered away.
Yeah, like even in the first entrance of the monster manual, it describes that like there will be non-combatant young Duergar equal to 10% of the total number of normal fighters. So even within the first edition of the game, it establishes that like the Duergar are people. Like, they have children and like, you know, like old women and people who aren't in a position to like fucking kill the party and take their stuff. So yeah, I mean, I would sort of say like, I would treat the Duergar. I would actually say that they're like almost like almost the best part of the Underdark, and that is a sign of how bad the Underdark is.
Yeah,
right.
Like, because unlike other places, you can walk into a Duergar city and sleep somewhere for the night, and there's not many places where that can happen. But like, that doesn't justify how horrible their system is. It's just like an acknowledgement of the fact that like, this place is just a bad time.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be more interesting. I also like the idea that like, their Duergar resilience, the thing where they can like resist like the influence of mind flayers. It'd be cool if the party like needed that, so they had to like negotiate with the Duergar for training under like a sort of a mentalist or some kind of like Duergar, like, you know, fortress mind or something, like some kind of cool title for like someone who's like mastered their own, like, you know, the interior of their like senses, and they can like perfectly defend their brain.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can teach you my ways so you can defeat the Illithids if you complete my riddles 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the party get a quest, and after the quest you go, hey, you all got this cool upgrade, you learned how to protect your minds, you now have advantage on saving throws to resist being charmed and paralyzed and blah blah blah. And like, oh cool, we gained a new ability based on what happened in the story. Isn't that fun? And now, hey, we're better equipped to defeat those nasty mind flayers because we need to get rid of them because they've stolen the I don't know, the sexy prince or the, you know, attractive bureaucrat or whatever. Like,
why not both?
Why not? Or both. Hey, there you go. They kidnapped the sexy prince and the attractive trade union member at the same time.
Oh my
So you have to save them both.
You have to say, and choose which romance option you go with.
There you go. Choose the romance option and form of government.
Yes. Ooh. I was going to say that, and with all that being said, actually, the book says that they like to make alliances with people and just like and go back in their word and stuff, whatever. But that means that you can make alliances with them if you need it. So if you're in the Underdark and you need people to work with, then if you say the right thing to them and help them out in the right way, they might help you out. You know, they might be a faction to help you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, they're better than, I don't know, mind flayers. I don't want to ally with them, you know.
Yeah, there's like horrible aberrations or the angler dragon or whatever else is down here. Like, at least I can talk to a Duergar.
Exactly, yeah. And they're probably like, okay, then get me 5 orbs, please, from the nearest cave. And then
any orbs? Yeah, any orb is fine.
Any orb is fine.
There's actually one final detail I thought I'd mention. This is something I unfortunately skipped. But in second edition, when it talks about the languages, it says they speak 3 languages. They speak the Duergar dialect of the Dwarven tongue. So that kind of establishes the thing I mentioned before, that like Duergar and Dwarvish might be similar. And I actually really like the idea of dialects of like, you know, like in real history and linguistics, that like languages have roots and commonalities. And so like Duergar and Dwarves might be able to have some words in common and then might divide in other places. And then it says undercommon, and it kind of puts it in inverted commas as kind of like an informal name. And then it explains undercommon is the trading language of subterranean cultures and the silent speech employed by some subterranean creatures. So again, there's that mention of silent speech, which seems to vanish, unfortunately, in later editions. But I like the idea of a silent speech. I kind of wonder what that is. You know,
all eyebrows.
We know that in this edition, we are told that the Underdark is saturated with strange magical power, which makes you invisible, but also big, just like real life, just like the Underdark you'll find in your very own home. But like, I wonder if you could argue that like the magic of the Underdark allows you to speak in languages that aren't possible on the surface world. And so maybe that silent speech that we learned of is actually, you know, some kind of like telepathic communication or some kind of like extrasensory ability that you're able to use while you're within the Underdark to communicate with creatures.
That sounds really cool.
Very cool.
If you could learn that, the things that you would hear now that you understand the silence of the Underdark.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool.
Or you could even have, it be like a language of the entire plane.
Yeah. Like
the entire plane is sort of, you know, sending out like radio waves all the time or whatever. And if you are tuned to them, you can like understand what's going on in the world. And maybe it's almost like, what? Sorry?
Could be a cool item to give to your party.
Yeah.
At some point.
Or even, it's almost like you can like, and maybe it's cool stuff like, you can tell when there's like, you know, storms ravaging the Underdarks and stuff like that. Like you can feel them. You're like, we should retreat because there's going to be a typhoon through here in about 7 minutes, that kind of thing. And it's like, well, it's underground. Then it happens anyway. You're like, oh my God.
I like the idea of the Underdark being this eerily quiet place to go through, you know, and because like the inhabitants of it have this silent speech, you know, they can communicate almost silently, you know, and just adding to the kind of the abyssal horror, I guess, of just like almost like nothing is there, you know?
Yeah, totally dark, totally silent. It's like you're just being surrounded by nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can light torches, but then everything else will see us.
Yeah. Oh, and just like, you know, stuff like once you light the torch, and there's just like so many creatures that surround you, just staring at you, you know?
Yeah, you light the torch, and the light is refracted into the dozens of eyes surrounding you, and you're like,
let's put that torch out.
Put the torch out.
Any quick final notes on a Duergar? Anything final? Any take-home message for our people at home?
I actually really like the idea of a Duergar whose clothing, whose items don't grow in size with them.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea that means a Duergar is constantly wearing like really baggy clothes that kind of hide their form, but they're big enough that when they grow, they fit them properly. And also I like the idea that as a result, Duergar, like, they walk around and they have like, you know, they might have a sword, and then they carry like a massive weapon over their back that they can only use when they grow in size. Yeah. You know, I think that's such a cool idea. Like, they're literally carrying like a massive scythe or like a massive war pick or something over their back that's like huge. It's like far too big for them to use.
Or just like picking up a cannon or something, you know, just like a cannon on the side of a ship, just like, I'll take that. Yeah, and then like
it's just something like they have to be ready for when they grow in size to like use stuff. I think that'd be fun.
I think a cool thing to do with them would be to make like an Azer version of them, like a constructed dwarven type of person that has shadow instead of flame. They're like wreathed in shadow, or like a dark flame based flame. Yeah, like a black flame Azer, because the Azer is made not born, and they're volcanic and stuff like that. But I feel like if you were to make them out of something else, you could make a Duergar version of the Azer, and I think that would be pretty cool. And then you could have like dynamics between those and dynamics between like the creators of these things, and I think that might be something that I would do. I might workshop it at some point.
Right. Shall we leave it there? Because we're it's just a podcast been going on for a while.
Yeah, fair enough. The only thing I was going to say is they also, in previous editions, it mentions they ride giant spiders and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Which I think gets expanded on in
one of them again.
One of the splat books again. I don't know which one, but in one of them it gets expanded on. But yeah, they ride creatures in the Underdark. They have mounts of their choice.
Nice.
I think they're called steeders.
Ooh.
I think it says here, blah, oh god, yeah. There is a 10% chance, roll that percentile die, that any Duergar are accompanied by 2d4 giant steeders used as mounts, which is basically like a big Underdark spider.
I like the idea as well, maybe like giant bats as well, maybe as mounts.
Yeah,
go
that makes sense
caverns.
as well, because it's, big caverns, and like they have the echolocation. Oh, that was the last thing. It would be very cool to have Duergar who had echolocation or blindside or whatever you want to call it, so that when they went to the surface to fight things, they put on blindfolds because they have sunlight sensitivity, so they don't want to be able to see. So they deliberately blindfold themselves and then rely on their echolocation to fight you. I think that'd be very cool.
Fun. Yeah, fun idea.
I just like the idea of the Duergar, like, dropping their heavy war maul, and then they tie a blindfold around themselves, and then they pick it up and they begin, like, swinging it, and maybe it sort of hums slightly, and they kind of use that sound to find you.
Yeah.
Or like clicking.
Or they have like nunchucks, and they like clack them off each other to make like noise so they can hear you.
That's awesome.
Like Daredevil.
Like Daredevil.
Exactly like Daredevil.
Very fun. Maybe like the strong Duergar, like the higher ups would have them, kind of like one of the generals of an army or something. Would be able to have abilities like that, or they just all have them. Do whatever you want with that one.
Or if they're like Duergar who are like supposed to be raiding the surface, like there's like like I don't know, like light stalkers or something like that. Like they're like the caste in Duergar society that like go to the surface to retrieve things that can't be found in the Underdark.
Yeah,
like slaves.
Go to
the surface, grab some slaves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Or just like plants. I was thinking as well, like just like anything.
A horse.
Even to negotiate with surface powers, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if there was like a religious element where they're not supposed to ever look at the surface, so before they go up there they have to blindfold themselves. And maybe then like another member of their group or like a slave is brought with them and they have to lead the dwarves. It's like, you know, their slave has to guide them because they're the only ones who can see the surface world and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is too much good content, guys.
Sorry, I'll stop.
We're going too long on this. Right. Thank you all so much again for listening to us talk about some of these monsters, which are consistently interesting and exciting. Like this, I did not expect to go for a bumper episode, but here we are. The Duergar.
Good script read there, Tim.
Thank you.
You got the Tim pause for laughter.
That was great. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So you can contact us via our contact form on our website, www.creatureclubpodcast.com. You can also find us via our email address, which some people have been emailing us, which has been very pleasant. Thank you all so much for your nice words.
You get them all, and you're all lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we do. You can contact us in the email address is creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com.
I got distracted.
So there you go. For your shorter form stuff, you can talk to us on Twitter a little bit if you like. We are at Creature Club Pod, or you can just search Creature Club Podcast, and we will be presumably one of the first to show up there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think our SEO, as they call it, is pretty good.
Pretty optimized.
Pretty optimized, guys. Maybe you say hi. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's search engine optimization.
Yeah, optimization. If you say like it wouldn't make sense to say if it's good. I think you describe how well optimized it is. You'd say it is well or not well. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. The good thing about checking Twitter is that regardless of like minutes, hours after the podcast comes out, our dear friend and patron saint Stevie Braffs will respond with an appropriate meme, or will make fun of us, or both, or will actually have a very interesting suggestion.
Yes.
Indeed.
Or all three.
Most of the time, it's a very interesting suggestion, but a lot of the time,
it is.
But like other times, he's making fun of us. So
it's good fun. It's good always fun. Good fun.
A bit of a gamble.
Enjoy that. You can, if you're the kind of person who listens to us and goes, "Oh, geez, these lads are talking shite." Stevie Braffs has you covered.
Absolutely. And also, people are on Twitter going like, "Who's this guy who's mean to Creature Club?" Like, "Oh, he's a very dear friend of ours." To be honest,
it's fine.
Why is this guy always so mean?
It's important. It keeps us in check.
Because he loves us.
Yeah, because he does it because he loves us.
And by the time this episode comes out, it will have been Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope Santa brought you something good.
Yeah,
I'm hoping for a quick end.
I wouldn't.
I don't know what I want. I'm so bad at like I don't know what I want for Christmas anymore. I'm weird. I like buying other people presents.
Yeah.
But I have no idea because if I want something, I just buy it for myself. I'm very greedy.
Exact same. Here.
So like whenever people are like, "What do you want?" I'm like, I couldn't tell you.
I think your presents. Talk to me for a bit. Have a chat.
The thing I want this year is I want my brother to bring back the Switch from Cork so that I can finally play the Switch.
Let's get the Switch back, guys.
Let's make it happen.
Hashtag get down his Switch.
Hashtag get down his Switch. We'll make it happen.
But I don't know. I just hope everyone has a good, safe Christmas.
Yeah.
Hope they have a nice time. I don't know what I want for Christmas. I think honestly, just getting to see my family will be a nice enough gift. I don't think I need much else. What do you boys want for Christmas?
Yeah, I kind of hope that people aren't being too silly during Christmas, you know. I kind of like I know Ireland anyway, there's rumored and it's most likely we're going into another lockdown because everyone's kind of wanted to see each other during this, but I kind of hope people just be a little bit more careful than they are right now. Yeah. And the same goes for anyone in any country who's listening to us.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Hope everyone's staying safe.
I am very content with where I am right now, so I don't need anything specific. I got a nice, lovely little laptop, and I have my delightful wife, so I'm all good. You know, I know that some people are sending things, or Dan has already sent me something because he's an absolute lad. But yeah, things are all right with me. I am wanting for nothing.
I think for Christmas I'd like you to get your controller or a mouse for Monster Hunter.
I wish I had a laptop that can play Monster Hunter.
Apparently just literally any laptop can do it now at like very, very, very low settings.
I wish for a gamer chair that will not broken.
For Christmas. I would like to not have back problems, please.
Yes, please. A chair that I can actually play games.
Please and thank you,
on.
Santa.
Indeed.
Yeah, that'd be great.
For the
Oh
holidays.
man, the book's closed.
Very good.
Creature
Book
Club
is closed.
Here it goes.
lights.
The clown is down.
Yep, that's
a
it, everyone.
Simpsons reference. I don't know if people know that one or if it's just me.
It's just you, I think.
Fair enough.
That might be just you.
I'm so sorry, Dan. I'm really sorry.
No,
about that.
it's fine. If any of our listeners get that reference, let me know, because just one of those ones that's in my head. But I'm like, is this just me?
If you know it, let us know, guys. At Creature Club Pod.
Do actually, I would legitimately enjoy knowing.
Yeah.
You can just if you reply, I know, then that's enough.
I know.
I'll understand from context.
To everyone else, it might seem a bit ominous.
Thank you
I'm so sorry.
so much for listening to Creature Club this week, guys. Next episode will be about something. I have been Mikey.
I have been Tim.
And I've been down.
Stay cool.
No. I'm taking a stand.
In 2021, Tim will not be cool.
I refuse. I've been cool this entire time. Everybody knows it. I will refuse next year.
It's
I
time.
will no longer be cool.
I will lose my cool. Oh, very good.
Definitely gives them more of a unique aesthetic.
Would you say this is the best thing to come out of 4th edition?
Let me think carefully.
Daily actions is always fun, I'd say.
The thing where you have no idea how to build a character because an application does it for you.
Crane's Wings, the monk ability. Where you can fly infinite.
is yeah, actually that's the best one. No, you're right.
Yes.
Everything else is a waste of time.
It's just,
Actually, it's basically the monk. The monk is the best part of 4th edition. Crane's Wings, open the gates of battle, spinning leopard technique.
The gates of battle. I keep forgetting about that. You got to start with that every time.
Yeah, those are the best parts of 4th edition. Everything else was just wasting our time.
Yeah. Yep. I'll be going to the buffet 2 times tonight.
Ooh, cheeky.
I'll be going up. I'll be eating my first plate, and then I'll go up for seconds. I'll go just get a bit of everything. I'll walk through a bit of everything. Yeah.
I love a good buffet. Not these days, but I love a buffet.
Yeah, you can't do it now.
No, it's against the
very
rules.
sad. All right, play that music.
Do you? I don't know if I've gotten posh, but now if I go out I haven't done for ages, obviously, because we're not allowed to go out anymore. Mm-hmm. But like, when I was going out for meals, like last year,
You got a
I
coffee
got into
afterwards?
the habit of getting a coffee afterwards.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
I don't know what happened to me, but I think it was just because I decided that like I don't actually go out that much, and when I do, I'd like to make an occasion of it. And I'm always like, and honestly, when I have a big meal, I'm like, actually, I would absolutely love a coffee.
Yeah.
Just to like cleanse the palate and warm my bones a little bit. I just love coffee. So yeah, that sounds great. So I'm always like, yeah, I'll just have an Americano, please.
Do you want to be extra posh? And if you're on a proper night out, you have an espresso martini afterwards. Ooh. So you get the coffee, but also it's a drink,
Yeah.
Fancy lads
Sounds
over
good.
here. I can't drink coffee because I have heart issues,
Yes,
but
of
that
course.
sounds nice,
Yes,
lads.
That's right.
I'd have a hot chocolate at any point during the day,
Now, in
before
fairness,
a meal, after a meal.
I would no, in fairness, after dessert, I'd be like, no more, please. That's why the coffee's good, because the coffee's like, oh, this is great. This is gonna cleanse me.
Yes. I feel cleansed.
I feel cleansed. I feel like I've washed down the meal now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we shall
did that
have our
come from?
coffee.
Sorry, we were talking about dessert, and I made a joke about we should get our dessert and our coffee at the same time, because normally you'd have like, starter, main course, dessert, and then while you're kind of, relishing the afterglow of the dessert, you might order a coffee.
Yeah.
But I was making the joke that we were in a hurry and therefore would order 2 courses at once, which is obviously a faux pas in high society.
I'm
we're
not
kind of a lowbrow show.
Absolutely, yeah. Complete the lowest. I'm not much of a dessert person myself, so I'm just like I just go straight to the coffee whenever people get dessert. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
I'll eat
it depends.
sweet things.
Depends for me.
Forever, at all times, every single time.
Depends where I am.
Every
There's the place we've been to. I don't know if we've been there, Mikey, but I think I've recommended it to you. The place Cinnamon in Monkstown,
Okay.
where they
Haven't been
do
there.
a really good sticky toffee pudding, and I'm always after it.
Nice. I'll go there when I can. I guess.
I'm hunting it.
I love a bit of
on the
sticky
hunt.
toffee.
Sticky toffee pudding is very good.
Whenever-
It's so basic,
underrated.
but it's so lovely.
Whenever when I was working in the kitchen, whenever sticky toffee pudding a ticket came through, the chefs would all yell "Sticky Mickey," and that's just going through my head whenever I hear sticky toffee pudding. Just like,
That's good fun.
good bit of good fun, yeah. Hated that job. Okay, anyway,
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I remember.
the place was good. The place was good to work at, but the job.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
so-
like the people were cool, but the actual work was like, and the hours and stuff were like nightmarish.
yes, that's really it. Not really nightmarish, just kind of
No, just not a great time.
not great.
I won't exaggerate.